Hey, what's up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me. In today's video, today we're going to learn how to paint a majestic horse in watercolor based on a live stream I did a while ago. I actually got the COVID, so my energy levels are quite low and I don't have a lot of voice, which is why I thought it's a good opportunity to take that live stream and make the process a little more condensed and fun, because a lot of people don't watch these because they're super long. So I hope you're going to enjoy this one, and let's get to it.
So I think what we will do as a first wash is actually we'll do a gradual wash from top to bottom, covering everything with some colors. Let me put this on paper and we'll see what happens. So I do want to add a bit more blue to that. Good. And remember, a lot of it is going to become more and more contextual the more we move through the painting, so don't worry if things look a little strange. You gotta let everything fall in the right context. So the background's a little more muted than the horse. Now as we get to the horse and move down, I'm gonna blue things up a bit more here. And let's see what happens. Well, we'll just kind of go for it. We'll find our way. The colors in the camera are not as accurate as I'd wish them to be, so my apologies about that. They are contextual to one another though, so you can kind of guess what the colors look like. And I opened up another well here. And get a bit more of that red, and we'll cover the entire horse. Because remember, right now we're working on the lightest layer, the underpainting, and we're doing it because everything is so light that I want to establish that kind of a thing, okay? And there won't be too much variance. The only real variance I'm going to put here is perhaps around the front. We'll get a bit more blue in there because it is a little bit cooler, see, like that. But I'm actually okay with that kind of melting away and ultimately kind of reverting to a yellow, because the layer that's going to come on top of that will be the one that makes the difference. Now, as we move down, I'm going to cover everything here down below, even the highlights, because they're not really highlights. A bit of warmth there. And then it starts to get a little cool, and I'm actually seeing a bit of ultramarine there as well. It's not just this cool manganese. We also have some touches of ultramarine. And as we're keeping things fairly light, I can cover everything. There isn't really any highlight, quote unquote, that I skip here, okay? I can actually feed this with a bit more of a cooler blue at the bottom, because it's gonna be quite cooler later on anyway. See this kind of a nice little strip of blue. And again, you have the freedom to kind of work things wet and wet more and more. It really is a matter of choice. To me, I'm like, let's finish this first wash, get rid of it, quote unquote, so we can focus on the smaller details and really render this properly. We'll let this dry naturally for a few more moments. So we'll start from the top, from the ears, and you look at this color and you're like, what is that? Right? It's kind of an orange, so we'll start there. I'm taking a bit of a risk. I'm not mixing yet this part, but we'll see. It's going to be okay, I think. Good. So I'm actually looking at, I'm just looking at the reference photo here, full screen. So you'll forgive me, I cannot see any messages. I cannot see if things go wrong in the stream. I can't see it, so my apologies. And now I'm gonna treat this entire group of hair as kind of one big shape for now. I think later on I'll bring out some more strands of hair and some more random details, but for now let's keep it like that. And this is gonna be one continuous wash for the face, right? So it's not an easy painting, but we're lucky enough to have a few separate sections, which is a huge advantage because we can work on them at our leisure. I'm actually going to get rid of this thin highlighter left and get this here. Now here we have a thin kind of slice of the ear. We do get a shadow inside it, and that's pretty much it. And then I'm going to put a bit more of a darker orange within the ear. but it still has to be quite muted. So let's see if I can mix it real fast. Let's see if I can get this to look good. Actually, a bit more on the red side. Like that. Hopefully you can see and that makes sense. Now this is a little darker too. And as we move down along the face, we have a bit of a red indeed mix here. This is a bit red purple. So let's bring a bit more blue. And you see sometimes you have to kind of mix while you're painting. It's not an easy thing, but it is a skill that I think is really important to practice, right? And then let's switch back to the more yellow, just to get these hairs here. Hopefully you can see well. Again, my apologies if you can't. Now, funny enough, the hair here is a very similar value to the background, so it's barely visible, but I want it to be visible. I'm going a little stronger here on purpose, okay? I can just kind of do a tea wash, very transparent, and almost not show it, but I do kind of want it to show a bit. And then we have to continue this wash here. So again, this isn't easy, but it is a constrained area in which we can work a little more at ease. And I'm going to switch real fast to a bit more blue here. And this is going to get, again, bluer. And I can actually go over the eye because it's so much darker. It's probably the darkest spot, so why not get something in there. The shadow under the hair is a little blue as well. And then we get all these more yellowy shadows. And shapes. We'll continue the hair in just a second. I'll actually stop it here because under that there's a shadow. I can stop there. And then as we move down the face real fast before it dries, I gotta blend these shapes together. From that purple that's composed of our red and blue, we're gonna start branching out into a cleaner ultramarine around the center and the nose. There's really a nice transition of the two colors. And it's a very smooth, by the way, this shape has a very smooth edge that we will need to capture. So let's see how this works. This looks blue enough. I think it does. And again, if I don't match the colors, sample them, in Photoshop and really observe them, I tend to not be able to match them perfectly well. So I don't have high expectations right now, but we'll see. Taking a clean brush and working on that edge to blend it just a bit. Let's do another round. See, help it move a bit. Same goes here. We'll stretch this shape down and then blend it a bit like this. And that's how we get that smooth transition, right? Now, as we move down to the nose, I see a lot more of that kind of cooler manganese blue. So let's get that in. And we have this sharp shape here. You see there's quite a lot of nuance of shape here. And hopefully I'm able to at least show some of it. And then we have this kind of a slightly darker shape. We have the shape under the lip or the nose, whatever that is, kind of disappears in here. And then, very important, we have the dark nostril, kind of muted and neutralized gray. So I'm going to get a bit of all my colors here. And let's see what this looks like. I could use neutral tint, but if I'm already mixing so much, why not get like the proper mix here, like that. Now, obviously, this will need some more touches to get darker. So I'm gonna, while it gradually dries, I'm gonna do some more kind of wet and wet adjustments to darken this. And the other side as well. So my color matching is far from perfect, but it does get the job done, I think, here. There's a bit of a highlight here that I'll bring back later on, by the way, with some opaque paint. And so we get this shadow under the neck, and it goes around here. It actually needs to be more blue, in my opinion. So more blue into the mix. It's funny how, like, if you're using digital tools, all you really have to do is just choose the color you want to use, but with watercolor, you actually have to mix it. It's so funny. Yeah, a bit more neutral up here. Now this is important because these shapes are very soft-edged. So I'm gonna blend them together around here, I think. See, I'm just gonna use a bit of water to help these move together. Soften that edge. Soften it here too. And we'll start painting. So this connects to here. And then I'm going to add a bit of that ultramarine too. Then as we move down here, we're starting to get a little bluer. And this goes around the hair. This is the hair here. So I'm not painting it yet. Now edges. So we're going to have to really blend this edge. This edge too, honestly. It's going to be a little hard because the shape is very thin, but we can try. And then I'm going to add a lot more of my manganese cleanly into this mix. The front here is indeed, it looks a little lilac-y. Maybe if I add a bit of, like I did in a tutorial, in the flower tutorial, I added a bit of that purple, it actually looked quite nice. Let's see here. And this goes here. This is a hard edge, but this here is a soft edge. So look at what I'm doing. I'm staying away from this line a bit more to the left to give me enough room to blend it all the way to the actual end of the shape, like this. Let's blend a bit of this just so that the hair isn't painted and then it looks all awkward. And then we're gonna do this definition of the muscle, which is quite cool. And down all the way here. And I think I'll lighten things up a bit. They look a little too dark to me here. Can also do this. Just a bit of a splash here. Such a light color, really. Such a light and gentle color here. It goes almost as kind of dark as the background, which isn't too dark at all. It goes around here. Now here on this leg, I do recognize a bit of that nice little violet purple. So I'm using a bit of that too. Is there a shape I'd like to blend? I could blend this. Again, this thing we added earlier a bit. It's always hard to blend small shapes because you just don't have a lot of room to do it. But sometimes it's necessary to create the correct edge. And correct doesn't necessarily mean you follow the reference to the T. It means the thing you think will look best as an impression, right? There's actually a tendon here or something like that. So, wait, can you see this? Yeah, okay, good. There's this weird tendon here that then kind of merges back with the shape. And it's the kind of detail that is important to get, in my opinion. So yeah, then this goes here. I think I'll actually do a lot of experimentation, future experimentation with this particular subject. Something about the colors fascinates me, and I would like to try to do the color matching exercise with it. And then as we move down, you see it starts to kind of blend into the background actually. So I'm just going to use a bit of my water to help it move together into this very abstract background. And what we can do is the nice kind of water flicking or paint flicking trick, you see, just to do like, give an impression of like something flying around. I don't know if it comes off through the camera well, but it's just a nice way of portraying it sometimes. And again, come back with some more water. Just blend those legs onto the ground. So we'll continue the hair. The hair almost completely merges again with this light value on the back. So I'm just putting in an indication so that in just a moment I can actually come back with a bit of a darker color. Get the shadowy side of it too. So right around here, see the shadows? To the left, something like that. It's a little too red here, so let's add a bit of blue. Like this. Just to show that it's the hair and it's flying around. Kind of like that. Now one thing that kind of bugs me is on the face. There are a few more details that I think would be beneficial to paint. So let's see here. It's going to be muted, I think. A little blue, but still muted. And you see, I fell into the trap of going a little too blue all throughout. Wasn't careful enough. But anyway, this part here should get a touch of value. Look at that. The eye, I actually really like how I match the colors. So yeah, and let's work on, actually, so this line here, this is also a bit more of a softer transition, so let me fix that now. It is a little sharper than the right side, but still not enough to warrant this big of a contrast. So I'm just going to go over it with a bit of a moist brush, just to set that edge free, just a little bit. There we go. And now I do want to get some of the values and colors on the belly. So I'm going to start with this kind of a neutral mix here, but it's quite light anyway, so I think a lot of colors can be used in this case. And then I'm going to blue it up slightly and use that to move the paint a bit. And then we'll tilt the page and we'll use a bit of water to kind of soften that. So we got this little transition there. We can actually work on the back too. So the side that faces away from us is quite purple. So let's start from here and let me see if I can match something close. I think that's actually close. So this with a bit of the blue. That's going to be the back here. That's pretty close. That's probably the best color I matched so far. This side is a very similar color, but it's a very smooth transition. So I'm pre-wetting and then I'm putting it in like this. And this sharp versus smooth is actually a nice look. It tells us the story of the shape of the back, of how there's a bump that goes up and then a turn and then gradual kind of rotation here. And we can actually continue with this shape a bit lower here. We do see hints of it around this part of the back. And we can use a bit of our water just to kind of soften that. You know, color matching is a big deal, actually. It's something that when I do get right, I spend a lot of time on. So just know that that like in the flower tutorial, I did get it quite right. But the reality is it's really hard to do for me. Now this leg here is also has a bit of purple in it. So let's see what we can get here. Purple, but don't forget it's also quite neutralized. So we'll add a bit of yellow for good measure. And let's see what we can do here. Let's work our way down this leg and try and get, I like the shape of it. I love this shape. Ruth has a similar shape because she's like a horse but smaller, actually. So we'll start here. A bit more water this time. And then there's a variety of edges here. So what I'm seeing A bit more purple here. And very, very smooth transition around the top. I'm going to use a bit of water to help the paint move onto that. And then it gets a little sharper down the bottom, actually. Around here, it goes sharp. There's the knee or whatever, some kind of a detail there. And then it goes back down again. And then I feel like it goes a little more neutral. So let me grab a bit more of that and a bit more yellow this time. Maybe a bit of neutral tint too, because I want to darken it just the way it is right now. And then put a smidge of that in here. And move it kind of down like that. And then we'll do the same thing. We're going to blend it together with the background and a bit of blue, I think. And then we can actually use what we already have mixed here and kind of connect the next leg before moving forward. Which we should have connected to the belly earlier. I just didn't think about it. Next to the edge, we actually have a bit more of the yellow showing, so it could be a fun thing to show. The ankle, of course, is showing. And then this connects here onto something that's a little more neutral. And blends right into the background with a lot of water. Just to help it move into the background like this. I love the color scheme here, actually. It looks really nice. It's just not perfectly matched at all, but it actually looks good. This goes here. And of course, the this part should be a little more blended. We do have the tail that's behind. Let's get that in here too. Let's see. So this is white and gray. I'm gonna add a bit more red. Turns into a purple. I'm gonna add a touch of yellow. That's actually close. A bit more red. And a bit more yellow, actually. And this is for the tail at the back. So that is a little darker, actually, than this leg here, so that's good. Goes around it. It may blend into it a bit. That's fine. Not the end of the world. And it actually lightens up near the bottom, so let me go ahead and lighten it up by adding some more water. I'm going to be done with this section in a moment, and then I can go back and see what you're saying. Sorry. That looks nice. I think I'll enjoy seeing a bit more contrast against the legs. So let's do that very carefully, okay? And let's mix just what we think is the background for now. It's very neutral. It is a bit maybe on the side of blue. Yeah, that's actually quite nice. I may add a bit of that purple to it. So let's see. We'll play it by ear, as they say. So I'm going to need some clean water. And look at what I'm doing here. This is one of my favorite ways of achieving this. So I'm wetting a thick strip, relatively thick here. And then, because it's wet, I can use it to get that blended edge around here. So I can just do this, and the top edge is blended, right? Just an easier way of achieving this effect. And then as I move down, I can add a bit more blue, maybe cool this mix up a bit. But notice that it's not too dark too, so you kind of want to keep it light. It even goes a little lighter as it moves down. It needs to be dark enough to contrast nicely with the, I guess, lighter sections of the leg, like here. And everything else is going to be quite light. So moving along here, down next to the legs, and you see how it makes them pop a bit? And don't worry, it will dry, of course, a little lighter, so it's not going to have that strong of an impact on the painting. But this method of pre-wetting, it just works so well every time. And then look at what we'll achieve here. So because there's a kind of a layer of spraying of snow, I'm just going to stop here. You know, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop this here. blend some edges, and we'll get this feeling of maybe some snow spraying. I'll actually put some water into this to make it lighter so that it feels like it indeed sprays some snow. And we will break off this edge, but still keep it lighter below it. So you see, you get this feeling of like there is snow that are flying towards us. If you want to enhance it, you can break that off in some spots. See, kind of like this, just to show it's like a sandstorm, a snowstorm in a way. But I actually really like it, so I don't want to mess around with it too much. I do see a hint of that leg within the shadow, so let's just bring some of it back here, and we'll see how it goes. It's something that sometimes it's fun to do. Blend this top edge, and then kind of you see hint that you see some of the legs through the snow. Can lead to an interesting look, just like that. And of course, the majority of it is going to be blended. So whenever you see these complex effects of like snow flying around or a storm or something like that, very often it has to do with the values and edges. And sorry, bump the camera. And that's pretty much it. So if you can get the kind of right value, and if you can get the right edge, you will get the effect that you desire. I mean, you don't need much more than that, actually. This should probably, just this gap here, be a little darker because of the background we just added. And I'm gonna let it rest for a few moments. I do know what I want to do next, so I think a big part of it is to have the patience to actually just retry. I'm gonna blend some edges as we talk, and if you retry, you'll definitely come to the process with a few more, a more advanced understanding of the subject and the scene overall. It could be really interesting for me to paint this again, actually. Just by painting, by going through the motions, the next time you're much more equipped to deal with the same challenges. So just have the patience or courage, depending on how you see it. And I had to blend a lot of these edges. Courage or patience, depending on how you see it, to repaint a scene. It's just definitely a part of the journey. So what I'm going to do is notice how and I should have done this wet and wet initially when I had the chance, but notice how there is a very thin, darker spot around where the shadow turns into a highlight. Right here. It just goes a little darker. We're going to do that. Now, what's the best way to achieve that? Again, pre-wetting just a small area, and then doing wet and wet. So I'm just going to pre-wet this kind of around, and you need decent paper to do this. If your paper is terrible, then it will reawaken the wash underneath, so you just want to be careful to not do that. And then you need to mix a pretty dark mix. But the way I see it, it's a neutral kind of cool color, so something like that. And I'm just putting it in like that. If you can do it in one go, that's ideal. Now it may be a little strong, but it's actually gonna dry a little lighter, of course, because it's wet and wet. You have to, at this stage, really be courageous and just put the value in there. Even if it looks a little strong, you'll see once it dries, it will dry much lighter, and I think it will fall into place really nicely. Just want to make sure I don't cross that line here. So I'm gonna dry my brush. Just make sure that we don't cross that. Good. And kind of blend the top edge. You see, and it gives it just a bit of that curvy shape. Granted, it's a little more along this area, but that's fine. I can actually lift a bit of the excess like this, or you can just use this to kind of lift back some of the left section. You see, but I actually like it. There we go. That's more accurate. See, just along this edge, darkening the eye. Now, here's the thing. I find that if I go too dark, it can look a little awkward. So I'm gonna try not to steer too far from the kind of value scheme we have here. I'll just add a small layer of dark neutral tint on top of it. Just very carefully. You can actually see some of the eyelids. That's fun. Also on the other side, same kind of thing. Really don't need much, and you're good. I think the shadow under the hair here should be a little darker, so we'll do that. Just a touch here and there to show the there's hairs there. Also here, maybe under the hair. This I don't see, I just think it will improve the shape a bit. This. And that's pretty much it. Now we'll add a highlight to the nose, which is going to be big. That's going to be a really cool moment where it pops. It's always a fun moment. So let me get my opaque white. A bit of a warmth to it. And we'll see what we can do here. I'm going to use probably a thinner brush for this. Let's use my Skoda sword brush. That's a good one. Pick up a bit of that opaque paint and apply it a bit carefully. It's especially here around the top of the nostril. See that? And then it goes along this edge. Like this. And I actually need to get rid of just a small part of it, so let's do that right here. That's good. I can actually use some water to clean it up a bit later. Or I can just paint over it with the dark paint. Let's actually do that, just so that I fix it. It's a little too thick on the lower section, so you just grab that slightly darker paint. We'll just fix its shape just ever so slightly. See, I need more water. You take all this dark paint just to fix the shape. It's so funny. But there we go. Just here, make it thinner. There. And hopefully that kind of makes the nose pop a bit. But this is gonna be fun. You know, the scenes that are painted all over. It's usually more fun to remove the tape. So there we go. I love Saunders. Really is the best paper, in my opinion. At this moment, these things, sadly enough, they change just because brands sometimes go bad after a while, or others become better, which is a good thing. So there we have it. So this goes a little darker, right? So I do this. And I guess then I just help it to kind of blend in its environment so that it's not too exaggerated, and then we can do a bit more wet and wet. It's really interesting seeing the scan, I have to say. So yeah, maybe that's a bit closer. But I think we did a decent job today. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna wrap it up now.
So thank you so much once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. A lot of this process has to do with edges, right? If you learn how to control them and then know where to place hard edges, soft edges, and so on, that's a very valuable skill, and it's something I've been doing a lot of thinking about because I'm editing the watercolor realism course, and it really dives deeper on edges, and that's going to be out real soon. I think next week's live stream is already going to be the launch stream. So in any case, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sorry the updates have been a little slow because I've been really under the weather, extreme headache. But yeah, hopefully it's going to be fine soon. Leave a comment, leave a like, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you again in the next vid. I don't know if there's going to be a live stream. We'll keep you updated, but in any case, real soon.